Have you ever stopped to think about what's really going on inside a school textbook? You know, it's not always just about grammar rules or historical dates. A lot of the time, there are these carefully chosen stories that are designed to teach us something, well, something much bigger. Today, we're going to peel back the cover on one of these books and find two pretty amazing tales hiding in plain sight. So, what you're looking at here is Bliss. It's an English textbook for ninth graders in West Bengal. And yeah, it might look pretty standard, but it's our key to understanding how education can work in some really cool ways. Because tucked away inside these pages are lessons that go way, way beyond just learning a language.
And that really brings us to the big question we're tackling today. How do these simple stories, the kind you just skim over in a textbook, actually teach us how to be human? How do they end up shaping our whole view of the world, of other people, and when you get right down to it, ourselves?
To figure that out, we're going to dive into the first two lessons in this very book. They sit right next to each other. Tales of Bhola Grandpa and All About a Dog. And let me tell you, they could not be more different. And, as you're about to see, that's exactly what makes them so powerful.
So let's meet our main characters. In one corner, you've got the super charming but incredibly absent-minded Bhola Grandpa. His biggest problem is his own memory, which, believe it or not, gets him into some pretty hilarious scrapes with tigers. And in the other corner, a really strict bus conductor whose biggest issue is a tiny little dog, which kicks off this whole debate about rules versus just common sense.
All right, first up, let's talk about the forgetful grandpa. This guy, Bhola Grandpa, is the perfect example of human fallibility. You know, the harmless mistakes we all make. His entire life is basically just one comical mix-up after another, all because he can't seem to remember anything. Okay, so get this. In one story, he's coming back from a festival, and he's tightly holding on to his grandson's little fingers, or at least he thinks he is. Someone asks him what he's holding on to so tightly, and he looks down and realizes he let go of the kid ages ago. So they all rush back, and where do they find his grandson? Totally safe, just chilling out under a cow's belly. It's just pure, innocent chaos.
But the absolute peak of his forgetfulness? Oh man, it happens when he runs into a Royal Bengal tiger. So he scrambles up a tree and just waits there all night. At dawn, he climbs down, sees a group of men, and casually asks them for some water, completely utterly forgetting that the massive tiger is still right there, stretching out just below him. He only remembers the tiger was even there when he happens to look back at it. I mean, his forgetfulness is practically a superpower.
And this is how his story ends up. He lives all the way to 95. And his wife explains his death with this just perfect, bittersweet line. It sums up his entire character, a man defined by a simple, harmless, and just deeply human flaw.
Now, let's switch gears completely. We're entering a totally different world with our second story, The Conductor and the Dog. Picture this. We're on a double-decker bus on a freezing cold night. The wind is so sharp it feels like a knife. The whole scene is just set up for a fight, not a funny story.
So a young woman gets on the bus with this tiny little Pekingese dog. The conductor, who just seems like he's having a really bad day, immediately focuses on it. He insists that the dog has to go to the open-air top deck, right into the freezing, horrible weather. The woman obviously refuses. She says it would probably kill her, let alone her tiny dog. And this is the conductor's whole attitude. That's my order. There's absolutely no room for discussion, no empathy for the woman or the animal, no thinking about how bitter cold it is. There are only the rules, his rules, and he is determined to enforce them, no matter what.
From there, the whole situation just falls apart. The conductor stops the bus entirely, the other passengers all take the woman's side, the police even get called in, but this conductor, he will not budge. The entire bus system grinds to a halt, all because of one man's incredibly rigid obsession with a tiny rule. So let's step back for a second. What do we got here? We've got innocence versus rules. In one story, you have a man whose personal flaws create these funny, harmless situations. In the other, you have a man whose strict obsession with rules creates tense public chaos. Let's really put them side by side.
When you lay them out like this, the sheer genius of the textbook becomes so clear. The Bhola Grandpa story, that's all about internal conflict, man versus himself, and we're sort of taught to laugh along with it, to be forgiving. But the story about the dog is all external. It's man versus society. And there, we're invited to be critical, to think about inflexible authority and why compassion matters.
But here's the thing you have to remember. This is an English textbook. All these deep moral lessons are wrapped around a really practical goal, which is teaching the nuts and bolts of a new language. And the way this book does it, it's just brilliant. So take this really simple sentence from that first story. Bhola had seen a tiger. Seems straightforward, right? It's just a key plot point, describes what happened. But it's actually doing so much more work than that. See, that sentence isn't just there to move the story along. It has been carefully, deliberately placed there as a grammar lesson in disguise. It's setting up a specific, and let's be honest, often tricky concept that the students are about to learn right after the story ends. And here it is, the proof, right in the exercises. That exact sentence, Bhola had seen a tiger, becomes the main example that students use to practice changing from active voice to passive voice. The story gives them this memorable, kind of funny context that makes an abstract grammar rule actually stick.
So this is the real takeaway. The textbook is working on two powerful levels at the same time. It's not just teaching what words mean, but it's also teaching how they can make us feel and what kinds of worlds they can build. You can really think of them as dual engines. One engine is building those practical language skills, vocabulary, sentence structure, active and passive voice. But the other engine is building emotional intelligence. It's teaching empathy, the value of humor, the dangers of being too rigid, and the importance of compassion. It's just an incredibly smart way to teach.
Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. These aren't just stories for 9th graders in West Bengal. They're really a model for how all of us learn. So take a second and think back. What's one story from your own school days that has really stuck with you? And what hidden lesson do you think it was really trying to teach?